cheating death. Our next guest followed her intuition, and it saved her life.
I was pregnant with my second child, and we were so excited. At the 20-week ultrasound, I was diagnosed with the placenta previa, which means that the placenta is growing on top of the cervix.
The radiologist made it sound like it was a relatively benign issue, at least at that stage of pregnancy, but my wife's reaction was decidedly different.
I told my husband, I've got a bad feeling about this. I'm O negative, so less than 7% of the population has this blood type. There was this overwhelming fear that I couldn't shake. When I got home, I had my first vision of what was going to happen to me. It was almost like a film strip. I saw me delivering Jacob, everything being fine with him, and then I would see the doctors slicing me open, blood hemorrhaging, and ultimately, I saw me dead on the operating table. I was convinced that I was not going to make it past this delivery. Everybody thought I was crazy.
I did hope that it was nerves and hormones, but it wasn't.
I was seeing things, and then I was feeling them physically, and calling my husband or my doctors and saying, I feel like this is going to happen. Every test that I went into that I was having visions about came back negative. Everything. There was nobody left to speak to, and my doctor suggested I have a consultation with anesthesia. I told her one last time, this is what I was afraid was going to happen. And with that consultation, she flagged my file and incorporated extra blood in the operating room at the time of delivery. A week shy of my scheduled C-section, I looked down at the floor and blood was everywhere.
When Stephanie got to the hospital, she was concerned that something horrible was going to happen to her during her delivery.
I was 100% positive my visions were going to come true.
We began to make our way to the operating room.
My body went ice cold. I told my doctor, there's something wrong.
Right after delivery, Stephanie had seizure-like activity.
We were calling out her name, and then we noticed that she had no heartbeat.
And flatlined for 37 seconds.
Stephanie suffered an extremely rare complication of pregnancy. It's known as an amniotic fluid embolism, and that causes a series of events that leads to a very significant allergic reaction, a catastrophic hemorrhage. She lost the ability to clot her blood. In order to keep Stephanie alive, during the first 24 hours, she was transfused over 60 blood products.
As a result of that phone call, we had a crash cart nearby and enough blood reserved for her. I do believe that that saved Stephanie's life.
Please welcome Stephanie. Welcome to the show. So, you obviously were unconscious when you were going through this near-death experience, but you've had, I guess, hypnosis and other techniques to try to remember what happened. So walk us through, for those 37 seconds when your heart wasn't beating, what was going on?
So I saw everything that happened in the operating room. So after I flatlined, I saw my doctor screaming, this can't be happening. I saw the anesthesiologist down by my feet and screaming, Stephanie, Stephanie, and running up. I saw that the first crash cart didn't work, but the second crash cart did. I saw a nurse that I'd never seen before jump on my chest and do the compressions. I saw somebody hit the button and call the code, and then 40 doctors rushed into the trauma team. And then ultimately, I heard the flatline.
How eerie is that?
You probably have an idea as a cardiologist.
Yes. So, you had this intuition. Mm-hmm. You had to have a lot of strength to speak up on it, especially in front of your doctors.
Right. Well, the way that I talk about it is, I had nothing to lose except my life. So imagine you're on a plane and it's crashing. You're going to do everything you can to save your life. And I needed to do something and talk to anybody. Maybe somebody had heard what I was going through and helped me.
So I hear your child, screaming and yelling back there, trying to get out here to mommy. Can I call?
Absolutely.
So please be checking Stephanie's baby, Jacob, and the rest of the family. I think the 4-year-old's there too. There they are. Now, are you the little chatterbox back there?
No.
I think that's your voice. I recognize that voice. What were you saying back there? It's hard when you walk out. She was saying, "Mommy, mommy, I want to go out."
There was this overwhelming fear that I couldn't shake. When I got home, I had my first vision of what was going to happen to me. I saw me delivering Jacob, everything being fine with him, and then I would see the doctors slicing me open, blood hemorrhaging, and ultimately, I saw me dead on the operating table.
We're back with Stephanie, who cheated death when she trusted her gut that something was wrong with her pregnancy. Also joining us is someone who's done a lot of research on the connection between intuition and health, Dr. Kelly Turner. So what have you learned about intuition's effect on health, Kelly?
Well, I study radical remission survivors. These are people who heal from cancer against tremendous odds. And one of the 9 things they have in common is following their intuition. And one thing that I really find fascinating is that research has shown that the gut acts like a second brain. So when somebody says, I have a gut feeling about something, that's not just a thought. That's a physical process happening in their body that we're all born with. And it's there to alert us towards danger.
Those butterflies mean something.
They do.
Stephanie, what advice do you have for folks who are, perhaps a little trepidatious about trusting their instincts, their gut intuition?
That if they sense something, they need to say something, because ultimately it could save their life.
As it did in your case.
It most certainly did.
The first gut instinct Dr. Turner says you should never ignore is the trust instinct.
Right, so we all have the ability to read people. We can read body language, facial expression. We often can get almost an instant read on whether someone is safe or not. That's your intuition talking to you. So intuition doesn't just alert us towards danger. It also points you towards a path of safety, or in my research, a path of healing.
Second big tip you give us is something that everyone will be familiar with, sweaty palms. So we should never ignore them. You actually wrote about this in your Radical Remission book.
Right, so it sounds simple, but your body often knows that there's a problem long before the brain does.
Want to demonstrate it?
Yeah, I'd love to show you. So a great example is the famous Iowa card study. So this was done at the University of Iowa in their School of Medicine.
Is it poker players?
Yeah, well, actually it was about gambling. And they were doing more than just watching what they were doing. They hooked these people up to sensors. So the point of the game was to win as much money as you could simply by flipping over cards. And you could flip over cards from any deck. But what the participants didn't realize
What was it? So we
is
flip.
that it was rigged. Right.
It's rigged.
So it was rigged. So the red decks were set up to give you big wins followed by big losses. And the blue decks were set up to give you slow and steady wins.
Oh.
Okay, so it took about 80 cards for the people to figure out what was going on. 80 cards before they knew this was dangerous and this was safe. But here's the crazy thing. Their bodies knew after only 10 cards.
Based on the sweating.
Based on the sweating. So after 10 cards, whenever they reached for a card from the red deck, the dangerous deck, the sweat glands on their hands would open up slightly. So their bodies were trying to tell them 70 cards before the brain caught up to it that this was danger. And that's why it's so important to listen to your body, because it often knows long before the thinking part of your brain even knows there's a problem.
So from now on, be proud of your sweaty palms.
Yes.
No more shying away from that reality. All right, the third gut instinct we should never ignore is the I don't feel good instinct. Something's not right instinct.
Something's not right. Yeah, so this could be a gut feeling, it might be a voice in your head, it might even be a dream. But if you have a nagging feeling that just something isn't right, you really should listen to it, just like Stephanie did. Because this could save your life. A great example of not ignoring this feeling that something might be wrong, in addition to Stephanie's example, is actually Tom Hanks' wife, Rita Wilson. She was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, but it started off with a breast cancer biopsy that came back negative, meaning indicating she didn't have cancer, but she couldn't shake that feeling that something wasn't right. So she asked to have the test repeated, and the second test came back positive, indicating she did have cancer. She ended up needing treatment, and by listening to that intuitive feeling, that thought of something's not right here, it arguably saved her life.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.